If you're dealing with pain right on the front of your heel, the first step that you take getting out of bed in the morning, or maybe after you've been sitting down for a while, you might be dealing with plantar fasciitis. It's very sharp, it's very painful, and it's very stubborn. I'm Dr. Daniel, Bridget Endurance Chiropractic, and in today's video, I'm going to introduce you to Scott, and I'm going to walk you through his journey and how we were able to help him overcome his plantar fasciitis. Okay, Scott, so how did you feel physically and emotionally before starting care in our office for your plantar fasciitis?
Yeah, so before care, physically and emotionally, it was I was in a pretty rough spot. It's physically, my foot was hurting all the time. Any sort of time spent on my feet, walking, hiking, and running, my two favorite activities, would cause significant pain that could last for hours afterwards. The emotional actual was maybe almost worse. Having had plantar fasciitis before and having had it for so long before, I was very concerned about having that happen again. Last time it was years, so I was really nervous that I was going to have to spend a lot of time getting rid of it again. And so I was almost more concerned about the emotional nervousness was almost worse than the pain in some ways, just because I was like, I know I've been down the path before. So they were both pretty concerning.
What noticeable problems or symptoms did you have before starting care?
Yeah, so the noticeable problems and symptoms were all related to basically hiking and running. Sort of like those are the two things that I do the most often. And as soon as I would hike more than 5 miles, run more than 5 miles, it's this, very, not sharp, more like just a dull, throbbing kind of pain that would persist for a very long time after the event. And interestingly, it's never like during it. It's always after the fact. It's always, I come back and it's like, oh, that feels a little bit weird, and then it just sort of gets progressively worse, throughout the day. And that's that was the key symptom that was the first time it happened to me. I didn't know what it was, so I just kept running on it because I didn't realize. I thought it was something weird with my shoe or whatever. I was like, this is weird. I've had weird stuff like this before. It's I've had tendonitis before, Achilles tendonitis or whatever. I'll just hit some ibuprofen and it'll be fine, right? But this time I knew, I was much more triggered for what it was, and it's that very distinctive kind of pain in that heel part of your foot. And then of course once it's there, then it's that first step in the morning kind of thing, right? Like first step out of bed feels really painful, and if sitting for a long time, laying on the bed for a long time, it's that very first step is just sort of like it's you just feel it like reigniting again every time, right? So that was very much what I was experiencing this time.
Yeah. What was it that made you decide to come into our office?
Yeah, so the reason I chose your office is I was looking at chiropractic offices in Helena, and the last time I went through treatment, I went through lots of different practices. I saw foot podiatrist, sports podiatrist, I saw multiple PTs, and not that what they were doing wasn't necessarily helping, but it wasn't helping enough, and it wasn't helping fast enough. The person that eventually ended up helping me was a sports chiropractor, and he was doing Graston technique. So I was looking for somebody that had something similar. And Endurance was the only one that I noticed from looking at websites, talking to people that had something similar. That was really, I knew that worked from the last time. I wanted to have that again. And I was hoping that, the treatment that you guys would provide would be very similar to the one that had worked for me before.
What worries or fears did you have before you came into our office?
Yeah, so the biggest one was, what if I can't find something that works, right? Like, what if I'm in the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year sort of zone with this again? Was the biggest concern that I had, and it was at the forefront of my mind when I was looking around and calling places and chatting with people. Is I really wanted to make sure that I was confident that I was going to get this taken care of, especially catching it early this time and not letting it get so chronic like last time. I was really hopeful that I could find somebody that could help me get rid of it pretty fast. What
would you say helped you overcome sort of those worries and decide to follow through with the care here in our office?
Yeah, so again, I've seen lots of folks in the past for these issues, and one of the things that I like is when the provider listens to what I'm talking about, what I'm saying. I've been through this before, so this is not, it's not my first rodeo. And so what I liked about speaking with you was it really seemed like you listened to what I was experiencing, what I had experienced in the past that had worked, and it seemed like you wanted to offer something that was maybe kind of a hybridization of maybe not exactly what I had experienced before, but using your knowledge of what you do and what works and combining that with what I know worked for me previously, it really made me feel comfortable, like I was going to get care that was really targeted towards me and my experiences and what I sort of knew worked, but also what works and does a good job. So that really felt comfortable and really felt like I knew I was going to get care that was going to be helpful. And to that point, when I would see this happen the most frankly with some of the PTs that I saw, it was just sort of like, if they're a hammer, everything's a nail, right? So it's like, oh, it's muscle weakness, and it's like, well, maybe it's muscle weakness, but maybe it's not, right? And so sometimes you didn't always feel like the person was listening to what your sort of experience was, and we even without a huge knowledge of medicine or medical stuff, like I can tell what's causing the pain. I can sense some of the the triggers that are happening that are causing that pain. And so listening to that person's experience is, I think, really important, and not everybody does that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. How has your physical condition improved since we've started working on your plantar fasciitis?
Yeah, so my physical condition, I think, has improved a lot. So as it's funny the way that the timing of things worked out, because I have a great example. So right when we first started doing sessions together, I had signed up for a local trail race.
Yeah, and you had that goal.
Yeah, and so it's like
2 goals, I guess.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, it's a short race. I'm just going to run and see what happens.
How long was it?
It was 7 miles, a 12K.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I got through I finished the race and it was fine. But about 5 miles in, I could really tell that my heel was not feeling great. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the day was just brutal. Like I could barely walk on it. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like I had to like sort of tenderly kind of walk on my tiptoes and stay anything to avoid touching my heel to the ground as much as possible. And that was I think within the first couple weeks that we started working together. And towards the end, so we did 2 sets of 4 weeks of sessions, so about 8 weeks. And right at the end of our sessions, I had signed up for a half marathon with my wife already, long before I got the plantar fasciitis. And so I was really sort of touch and go. I just assumed I wasn't going to get to run in it, and I thought it would not be a good idea to run on it, and so on and so forth. But the week before, we had talked about it a little bit. I decided to do some short runs and see how I felt. And I got 3 miles in, 2 miles in, and it was kind of feeling okay, which is good enough pretty good on its own, actually, right. Just to get to the point where it's like I can run 3 miles and it doesn't cause horrible pain for the rest of the day is already some nice progress. And of course the question is, do you want to put all that, set it back so much by doing this thing? And so I didn't decide until the day before, actually. Mm-hmm. It was the night before that I was like, I'll just, we'll start it. And if I have to quit halfway through, whatever, we'll see. And my wife runs slower than I do. So I was like, I'll just run at your pace and, take it easy and whatever. And not only did I finish the whole thing, which I thought was pretty amazing, I didn't really even start to feel anything foot-wise until about, I would say like 11 miles in.
Okay.
It was almost to the end, really. And even more importantly than like finishing, I think, was after the fact, I didn't have like excruciating pain in my foot, which I thought was very surprising. I was really expecting to be like, laying on my sleeping bag in the tent for like the rest of the afternoon. Right. And we actually went for a short hike afterwards.
Did you?
Yeah, it was like, like less than a mile.
Didn't have enough yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's like, it was still like not so bad that I could go and do that and it wasn't excruciating or unbearable. So that was the moment I sort of knew like we'd made a lot of progress already. Mm-hmm. If I was able to do that after just like 8 weeks, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you feel overall now compared to before we got started?
Yeah, I mean, it's both. So coming back to, how I feel both physically and emotionally, right, is I think physically I'm certainly in a much better spot. I mean, just recently ran, like 3 miles in the morning with, no pain at all, which is really nice. I've been doing a lot of field work. When I do that field work, I'm wearing waders and wading boots, and those are sort of notoriously uncomfortable and not very easy on the feet or the ankles. And I've been doing a lot of field work, standing for hours at a time in uncomfortable wader boots, and it's been fine. So I think physically I'm definitely doing a lot better. I get these occasional little flare-ups, like shorter hikes and things seem to be causing some flare-up, and I don't really understand exactly why at the moment, but it's certainly a lot better. Okay. And emotionally, it's also just really nice to know that this is not going to be 2-3 years of trying to figure this out. Yeah. That we've made so much progress already, and I feel like I'm on sort of like on the downslope, right? Like there was a peak there in the middle where it was maybe the worst it could have been, and we've been working on it, and it's kind of going down, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not like you know, it's not like an Achilles tendonitis where you hit it with ibuprofen and it's gone, you know, or stay off it for a week and it's gone. Like, it's going to take a while for it to be gone completely, but I feel like I'm getting there, and I feel like it's really just a nice relief to know that I probably won't be dealing with this all of next summer as well. Like, I've already lost most of this summer to it, but I at least I know I'm not going to be dealing with this for years at a time, and that's really, really nice to know.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you sharing everything.